You are? The trees are growing. All right. So how long? So yeah, we're talking, this is our fruit growers meeting, monthly meeting in Tucson. So we're talking to, grow peaches down here in Arizona. So we're glad that everybody's coming in and wanting to join up and be part of the conversation. So we will see what we can do. Peach trees, stone fruits are a good fun one to grow. You've got yellow, white, dwarf, full size. You've got the flat saucer peaches. And I don't know if I missed any questions on the live Instagram or not. Trying to follow it. You gotta bear with me. One good fun thing about stone fruits in Arizona is you can have multiple seasons. So I actually, at my house, dug a 6-foot wide hole, planted 4 peach trees in that one hole. This one ripened late May, June, July, August. And you can, huh?
That close together?
Yeah. You mean that close together? Why not? I got all 4 peaches in one hole like that. So it was great having them all in there like that. 4 peaches, 4 seasons to grow with them. One big 6-foot wide hole. That's what it was. 4 peaches, 1 in each corner. Just on the inside, you prune them up so that they can don't grow into each other. And then on the outside, it's taking up the same amount of room as one tree. And you want to keep your peaches pruned to about 10 feet anyways. So, because if you, yes, you're just trimming it as one tree. And stone fruits, so citrus are the opposite. The more you prune citrus, the less fruit you get. The more you prune stone fruits, the more fruit you get. So they're the opposite. So your peach trees, you get them in, you get them growing, especially if you've got a small backyard. Don't be afraid to plant them, whack them at waist high. Let them then grow back out. You can train out a nice structure on them then at that point in time. Keep them low, keep them easy harvest then that way. I have my apple tree. I pull a couple hundred apples every year and I'd hold it to 8 to 10 feet tall. And it was about the same across, just short, fat, and bushy. And that's it. So that's all you. Well, we will get into that. Don't jump the gun on me. Don't jump the gun. We will talk fertilizing. We got to wait for Jake to get here because then he's got to bring in a bottle of whiskey and we have a shot every time we say organic fertilizer, but he always forgets to bring the bottle. So I guess we may not be having any shots tonight because he's running late too. So yes, we try to have a little fun with it and laugh and joke around here. For those of you who are first time, we do this once a month, fruit growers meeting in Tucson. And we talk everything from avocados to jujubes to mulberry to pomegranate, whatever you can think of. Bananas, everything. So we do them all here. So if on peaches, if you wish to do it, you will note that all your fruit trees are grafted. So if you look where your graft is, and this is going to be for any grafted tree, you'll see where it's been cut and you got that little bit of like black on the one side, face that north. So that when you get it planted, if that's facing north, this is any grafted tree, it'll help reduce the chances of the graft area getting sunburnt.
So when you say black, it's like painted black?
Oh yeah, it'd be painted, or you can see where here was the original tree. They grafted this branch on here, so it's growing out here, and then they come in here and cut it, and so you'll. It's the knuckle. The black part might be the scar tissue from where they cut the other tree off, the original tree, and so just face that north when you plant, and then you'll be in good shape. And then that helps reduce the likelihoods of the graft area getting sunburnt. Don't go pruning them up right away. Leave them lower down, and. Somebody go out there and look and see if Jake's out there at the gate. Go let him in, please. So, paint them. You can paint your tree trunks brown. They've got brown tree trunk paint that was actually made for Arizona to protect against the UV light. It's not just the sun that burns it. It is a specific UV wavelength that burns the trunk of the trees. So, yeah, there's Grow Natural and IV Organics are the 2 brand names. So those paint your trunk right from where it branches down to the ground level, get it painted brown, and you'll be in good shape then that way. And so,
You just cover it, the growth.
well, but you don't always have growth right away the first year.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
You want to paint your trunks, and so get over here, Scruffy. No, you don't get to hide in the back just because you come in late, grab a chair and come around. You don't want to be in the light. You don't have to be in the picture, but you got to be in the light. You got to be in the light. So, well, you can paint it white, but that white doesn't protect against the UV wavelength that specifically burns. That's why I said that brown paint is specifically designed for fruit trees and to specifically protect them against the proper UV wavelength. So that's Go Natural and IV Organics.
How you doing?
I'm all right. My leg is going numb, but other than that, I'm all right.
Want me to kick it?
No, you can't kick it. I did enough when I went to go and wipe dust off my pant leg and I went like this and hit it and I screamed in bloody pain because I'm hitting myself too hard on my broken leg. Yeah, this is the good one. That's the old one. That's the good guide. That's got trees back from the 50s and 60s.
Wild.
So it helps when you grew up in the nursery industry. You got all the good old fruit guides. So yeah, so do that now. What people don't know of, or they're starting to hear of and starting to know of, when you plant your trees, plant them high, plant them up high in the center. And your trees are generally buried deep in the bucket. So you want to expose what's called the root flare. And there are better images online than I can describe, but essentially you want to see where the roots attach to the trunk of the tree, like your knuckles attaching to your hand. And you might be going out about 1 foot in diameter, but you want to see those tree roots going around there. So that this way that actually helps long-term fight against soil disease, fungal diseases. And when I say long-term, sometimes it can be 15, 20 years down the road before those diseases may show up, which in some cases might be the good productive lifespan of a lot of stone fruits. But then if you get that disease there in that soil, it's staying there. It's not going away. You've got it. You plant your new tree and then it's just going to wait a year and kill your new fruit tree that first year. So it's not going to disappear on you.
And then take it out of the pot and put it, like you just have the root ball and not what it's in, and then make it that deep, but then go out through.
So what she's saying, so Mary has a soft voice, is she's saying if you see good girdling, circling roots on your root ball, go ahead and cut them, unless maybe you're putting it in. And now peaches can be planted year round. Even when it's 110 degrees outside, you can still plant your peach trees. I know everybody says you can't, but guess what? In the nursery, end of the season, I got these 5 gallons. I need 15-gallon trees. So it's June. I'm taking it from a 5-gallon. I'm slapping it into a 15-gallon bucket, and it's sitting out in full sun in the nursery, and it's growing all summer long, and it's getting watered and fertilized on a regular basis.
But you gotta go.
Yeah.
Well, you got to water properly. So on planting, as long as you've got your tree planted properly, the root flare exposed. So if you've got to remove soil from the top to do it, to show it where those roots are attaching to the trunk of the tree, go ahead and do it. Don't be afraid to do it. And like I said, there's better images online than what I can describe, but get that done and you'll be in good shape. Well,
So that it's
maybe yes and maybe no. Depends on, depends if they're root bound or not. If they're not, there's no need to.
Yeah.
So it's, no, if you've got a girdling root, just where it's starting to do that curve,
Yeah.
just cut it right there. You don't want to remove that whole root. You'll stress out the tree too much unless you're doing it while it's dormant.
I think some arborists are saying to do that these days with the girdling that's occurring from trees being potted too long.
Well, so what he was saying is that it's good to take your plant out of the bucket. So number one, you always soak your plant several times in the bucket before they go in the ground. If the root ball is nice and moist, there's going to be less transplant shock to them. They will recover from it much faster than if they go in the ground with a dry, and it will be easier to rewater them after they get in the ground. Now, some people are promoting to wash all the soil away from your roots 100% at any time so you can check for girdling roots. Some trees can handle it, some can't. But if you're doing it in the middle of summer, that may not always be the best move. So in that case, you can just take a knife, and if you just go and score your root ball around on the sides, you can feel fairly confident at accomplishing the same
And
same
it just
thing.
depends, like, I mean, we get 15-gallon plants that are planted at the base and this much dirt on top of them. In that case, like, what choice do you have but to remove that and kind of wash it away
Yeah.
in order to be able to expose that? And it depends on if it was the upkeep by the nursery was done correctly, then you're not going to be having those problems. But what we're seeing from most of the nurseries, and these are great nurseries, and even Dave Wilson, are problems with these up potting, and I don't know where the knowledge was lost that the root flare must be kept, you know, at grade or up above grade.
No, it was just, it's what's been done for 100 years, 200 years. And so it took, I forget if it was Clemson or Purdue that finally figured it out here recently. And that was mostly due to the volcano mulching that they do back east, where you have the trunk of the tree and then they just they come in the wintertime and they push soil up here and do that. And that may have been a little bit of monkey see, monkey do, where they were seeing the Italians who brought fig trees over from the old world and they're planting them in New
In the
York.
cold,
And that's how you protect a fig tree in the wintertime from the cold. But then as soon as spring comes, you're pulling
Yeah.
that soil away. Well,
it's like
nobody
what
was
we do
pulling
with
the soil away.
bananas here, you know, but there's like doing that excessively. There's like cold hardy figs where people cut them completely back in these cold climates and then do, you know, the mulching over it to protect that main thing. So
Yeah, but the problem is nobody was, on all the other trees, nobody would pull the volcano mulch back
Yeah.
away from it.
They just saw.
And that's,
thought that was
and you would
really-
see roots just start growing in there and cause all kinds of fungal diseases and all kinds, and then the roots would start growing and girdling around the trunk and killing the tree, and it would just create all kinds of issues
So
and
you
problems.
use your best judgment as a tree person to figure out if it needs more help than it actually
And take
does,
off
you
that
know.
center stake.
Yeah, please take off the center stake.
Well, hopefully, I mean,
Well, a lot of people.
Tree,
it's
trees,
too small.
peach trees, generally, when you buy them, don't have stakes left in on. They got a big enough trunk. If not, you're buying
A bad tree.
a bad tree. So sorry, there's no reason that you're ever gonna find a peach tree still in need of needing to be staked in a,
Yeah. their
in
root
a
stock should
nursery
be
pot.
strong
There's
enough and large enough.
just not
Well,
gonna
that's when they
happen.
bury them, you know, 12 inches deep, but if it's not
Well,
staying upright.
So are you saying?
So some of it too, but
you're saying, well,
oh yes, always have a well. So when you
Yes.
plant them,
You just
have
plant
them up high. You plant them up high, and you have how are you gonna water it? Tell me how you're gonna water it without a well. Where's the water going?
Well,
then
Okay, so but where's the water gonna go?
It's gonna go right
Okay, but
back down to the regular. I'm sorry.
with what kind of soil though?
yeah.
Is it sandy? Is it
Let's
clay?
say
Is it
there's
silt?
caliche
Is it
below
loam?
There, what are you supposed to do? Just plant it on
And-
top of the caliche?
But I think-
Okay, but how do you keep it there? How do you put fertilizer on it now? How do you water in the fertilizer? Okay, and so you have a nice flat land like this.
No, building, so like.
So you've got the root ball up high, and so when you water, now where's,
So that it.
so you gotta keep moving the hose around. So you're nice and retired, so you can start the water here and come out in 2 hours, move it to here, and come out in 2 hours and move it to here, and come out 2 hours and move it to here. But not everybody has that time. So having a nice water basin, especially when you go and dig down 6 inches deep and 6 feet wide by 6 feet wide, and I got a nice recessed basin.
You went 6 feet deep with this tree?
No. I said a water basin 6 feet wide.
Okay.
I didn't say the hole was 6 feet deep. The water basin is 6 feet wide by 6 feet wide and 6 inches deep.
Okay.
Afterwards, I'm digging down 6 inches. And so where you're saying, and we're just gonna make it easy for people online here, we're not talking about having the center raised up. It's just nice flat land. You're not making a water well around your tree. So now when it rains in the summertime, all that water runs away and down the street and into the sewer. Mine having a nice basin, a nice bowl around it, I caught 138 gallons of free rainwater right there instead of letting it all
And
run
you have
down
a
the
tree
street.
roll that's ready to
Does
not
it-
be messed with for years because it's growing out as the canopy goes.
No, you have the center of the tree raised up.
Okay, now I'm okay.
But that's what I don't care if it's raised up or not. You want a basin. If
Especially
you've
if
got to
they're-
dig it down away, you want to have a water well around your
Yeah.
trees.
And,
You
and
need
also
it,
just
and
to
you
touch
gotta make
base-
it 3 feet wider than the spread of the tree. So every year in the winter, you're gonna go in and dig it out wider and wider and wider.
Yep.
It's gotta always be 3 feet beyond the spread of the tree. Tree roots go up to 5, depending upon the tree, up to 5 feet beyond the spread of the tree. They don't stay at the drip line. They are always beyond it.
So the whole, practice of feeding at the drip line, should we be feeding further out, 5 feet out, or should we still be feeding in that?
At the
area?
drip line.
You feed, so you're gonna put you're gonna water and fertilize completely underneath the canopy of the tree up to 3 feet beyond the drip line, beyond the spread, that entire area. You don't just feed right at the drip line, because there's still always side lateral roots that are going out completely underneath the. That's why you cover the entire canopy of the tree. You stay like a foot or so away from the trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
But you go out now, unless you're in a pot, then a pot, you don't have a choice. If you're growing a dwarf peach in a container, and by the way, strawberries are great companion plants for peaches. So they grow great underneath peaches, especially if you got it in a
Strawberry
pot.
Free,
Oh, yes. So there's, Jake had come out to the nursery when we had a bunch of peaches there and peach trees, and we walked around and there's this tree called Strawberry Free.
I got it now.
It's a white peach. And so if I'd eaten that when I had my beard, I would still, over
You
the
had-
summer,
You had your beard.
I had my beard. Yeah, it was drip. And so, I went home that night and after dinner, I was still tasting that peach for dessert out of my beard. I was just licking my
A
beard.
year
And
later, I came back and I go, do you have a strawberry free? He goes, hold on. And we went searching and found literally the worst example ever. And I brought
was
it back
one
to
that,
life.
it's one that was out along the fence line where there's some big other trees growing, and in a monsoon storm, snapped a branch on that other tree and crushed like 6 trees
Yeah.
underneath it. So there was about this much of a tree trunk sticking up out of a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah, and I nursed it
And
back. It's
so
doing
it's-
really well. Got a bunch of flowers on it this year.
Good. I
so
expect 25% of the harvest.
I'll bring you by. We'll have juicy beards.
Yeah. Well, so when you make your hole. So you want to make the hole 2 to 3 times as wide as the
That's
tree. And if you can go, now, I know around here, they like to say, make it no deeper than the bucket. That's great for native plants. Our hard packed soil, if you're doing fruit trees, 2-3 feet deep. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
make a massive hole.
And you can
When
come, you can come by my farm and see what we've pulled off in the years. We have
When-
lychee at 16 inches
Yeah.
and we have 50-foot trees now because we built our own soil above that caliche. There was no planting it on the caliche and gonna see it. You saw the mesquites with the caliche coming through our excavation site for a greenhouse. They hit that caliche and there's no choice. They have no place to go.
So they had that at the U of A many years ago, that when they were redoing some construction, they were taking out some old trees, and you could see, and the U of A, the caliche runs 10-12 feet deep.
Like my neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah, it goes up to 12 feet deep. And so they just dug a hole, planted the trees in it, and you'd see all the roots after 10 years
Just
just grew in that hole.
Yeah.
It was like growing in a pot the whole time because they couldn't get through that caliche.
Yeah.
So now where they did the study to show it didn't make any difference with the adding mulch or not, or the size of the hole you made, it was Dr. Jimmy Tipton, God rest his soul. He did it at the U of A farm along the riverbed with mesquite trees. Well, I guess what? Growing mesquite trees in that floodplain soil along the riverbed,
a whole different.
I wouldn't need to amend the soil either for anything there. I might not even need to amend it for growing a
Anything,
peach
yeah.
tree. Loamy soil is the best soil in the world, no matter where you're at or no matter what you want to grow. So
Yeah,
That's a
the other
big
thing
difference.
To add to the soil, like changing things is if you have clay soils, there's some clay soils in Tucson that will not drain at all. And if you plant in that, you're not going to have a good time. So what we've been practicing is, yeah, your tree's going to die. So we've been practicing just making these taller tree basins and creating like a landscape aspect of it with rocks and whatnot to bring it up above that, and then mulching the whole yard so that there is space for those roots to reach out. They may not have to water as much because of the clay below it and whatnot, but we have trees that grew 35 feet in 2 years practicing this, just building our own soil system, doing a taller planting, you know, depending on what it is.
And
It
so-
might be-
It's like the hydrant between in ground and above ground.
Yes, exactly. Like we're creating a
half and half.
raised bed. Yeah, so that it has a place to go. And you'd
So-
be amazed at how things grow when you do these type of things. And you have to make a decision if there's too much caliche or too much clay on how you're going to address that.
And just so if you can buzz through it, but, and when you water, just put the hose there. So if you've got clay soil, that water is gonna start out like this going down, and then it's gonna go like this slowly, slowly, slowly before it goes down. So the more clay, you've got much more of a wide swath. The more sand, the faster it's gonna go down
Yeah.
before it starts going wide. So, you know, and if you've got heavy clay soil, mix in a lot of compost.
Yeah, get
Don't
the
try and
worms
change it
working
too
in there.
much. Don't go and think, okay, I did that, then all you've done is create an artificial hole.
And it's
I
like
start
a larger
dumping in
rock.
sand in there, those roots will not grow beyond the hole that you created.
Yeah,
So, because, yeah, you've made a whole different thing. The water's not gonna go down into the next soil profile. The roots aren't gonna grow down into the next soil profile. Nothing is. So don't worry about sand. Just mix in a lot of compost with the soil that you make with the hole. Rough up the sides, rough up the
Yeah,
bottom,
use-
blend it a little
use,
bit.
Tiller to go through the entire area that we're planting out. You know, we do food forests, so we build a bunch of different trees at the same time. So we incorporate that and break up that clay, you know, substrate that's going on underneath it.
Yeah, so do that, you'll be in good shape. And throw in about 5 or 10 pounds of soil sulfur, a
Yep.
lot of it right at the bottom of the hole. Sulfur will help improve the drainage and it'll lower the pH some, although your soil's not gonna wanna stay changed. It'll try and go back to what it was.
Constantly.
It's called the buffering capacity of the
And our
soil.
Water is at 7.8.
Well, depends where you're at, 8,
Yeah, I know,
9.
that's why I say.
So, but the continuous addition of organic matter and doing organic fertilizer, you forgot the bottle of whiskey.
No, I didn't.
No. Okay, for yourself, you brought it. Man, what a wonderful, generous guy he is. Did you bring my whip
To be coherent,
so I could
I'm the goofball.
hit him?
You mean my cat nine tails?
Something. I got my cane here. I'll smack him with my cane.
Yeah, nine tails.
No, I know. I'll do a pomegranate switch. Those work really good. Anyhow,
There's something.
somebody wants. Well, you could add sulfur once a year, and then at that point in time, it's gonna be a pound per 100 square feet of area up on the surface area. So every 10 by 10, you're gonna throw a couple cups of sulfur. And you could, you know, so some of it too is gonna depend upon the sulfur that you use.
Yeah, there's sulfurs that have,
Well, they
like
break
clay
down
in
quicker.
them, there's some that are higher sulfur content in them, so you
Well,
need to
so-
read like what that is.
Tiger Sul and Dispersal, those two brand names are 90% sulfur. They're agricultural grade, so they break down much more rapidly.
Yeah.
If you use just plain elemental sulfur, it could be up to 5 years before it breaks down and has any difference. So it's
Yeah.
not gonna do anything.
And
Did you
there's
wanna
different types
join?
of Sulfurs, like fast acting sulfurs that have bayanite clay.
I got somebody
that
wants
actually
to,
make it bond, whatever it is, and those are gonna be much less. I mean, we're talking like 50%. At that point, you'd add like 3 times a year, but
Did
we're
you-
talking 90% sulfur is gonna be a little bit less. But initially, you can kind of, you know, like you said, put the 5-6 pounds when you plant it. And you can start using sulfur a little bit more, but eventually, like arborists I know are seeing sulfur poisoning happening from people adding it too much. So you just have to.
All right,
be aware
so-
of How you're doing.
yeah, that's what's gonna make the difference. So,
What indicates too much sulfur for those that don't.
well, if you've got too much sulfur, you would lower the pH dramatically to below a 6, get down into the 5s, and then you might have phosphorus deficiency,
Yeah,
like
You
he's saying.
would see that on the leaves, on the trunk.
On the leaves, but,
Yeah,
but that would be,
Like the ones that-
well, it might be a purple tinge color, but it's gonna, you would have to dump 10 gallons of sulfuric acid onto your tree to lower the pH that much. And then in a week, it's gonna be right back to a 9 again. The U of A did that at the Wilcox Playa over 20 years ago, 30 years ago, dumped gallons of sulfuric acid, took the pH that was over an 8, almost a 9, down to a 6. In less than a week, it was back to a 9.
That's what
It will not stay. Your soil will not stay. It doesn't, soils have what's called a buffering capacity. Well, at least once a year and maybe every 3 months. But if you continuously add organic matter, keep adding organic
you're
matter,
changing that.
that will bring the pH down and keep it down.
Yeah.
And doing organic fertilizer. So then,
Let's say eight.
because you've
Yeah.
got the beneficial bacteria,
You have
fungi,
the
everything's.
worms that are breaking up all of that and incorporating the rest of it.
So that's what's happening, and you'll get a 6.5 pH, and then everything's available.
You can kind of work with that hybrid planting of the trees to keep the pH down and more sustained without it buffering so much because you're only half in and half out. And you're constantly building the soil up and building the ground around the higher. So for the continuous breakdown, then you're almost keeping that top area with the tree remaining feeding that. Can be added more. sustained.
Even if you didn't build it up, you could do it if you just planted it in the ground like what Mary was talking about. As long as you're constantly getting more organic matter compost every year, adding compost.
Trees
As
drop
they
their
break
leaves,
down-
deciduous trees
Yeah.
drop their leaves every year. You have to replicate that if you don't have enough material. And people were raking their yards since the 50s to keep up with the Joneses and taking away all that organic
Yeah, and
material.
so-
And we've created dead spaces in all of our yards trying to do that.
So-
Mulch it and let everything drop and allow the forest floor to activate.
Yeah, so for those coming on live on Instagram, we're talking growing peach trees here in Arizona at our fruit growers meeting here in Tucson. So yeah, if you just keep adding that organic matter, you're gonna get that pH down. So the pH is the acidity and alkalinity of the soil. 7 is neutral, below 7 is acid, above it is alkaline. I've got, so as, if you get your pH to between a 6 and a 7, you'll find most all your nutrients available. The sweet spot is 6.2 to 6.6. Some might say 6.8. If you got it in there, you don't have to have a 5.5 pH to grow blueberries.
And if you.
I got
you
it.
have a good one again, so
Well-
I would just-
Well, if you get that pH there,
Yeah,
any fertilizer then will work.
yeah. Otherwise,
Because
it's
the
not able
plants
to
are taking
intake
up,
the
so
minerals.
everybody's like, blueberries, I need acid soil, I need acid fertilizer. I got a lady in the foothills up here, she's been growing them for 9 years in a pine planter box that her husband built her, about 2 by 2 by 2, regular soil, not acid soil and not acid fertilizer, just using my fertilizer. And she's harvesting blueberries without any nutrient issues at all, because you've got good organic soil, the organic fertilizer, the pH is about a 6.3 to 6.8. All your nutrients are available. Some nutrients are more available at an 8.5.
Yeah.
And some are more available at a 5.5. And so it just depends what you want, but they're all available in that sweet spot. So you get your soil pH to that sweet spot, everything's gonna be there and be available. Now this year with all the rains, if you've got everything in that sweet spot for your pH, cold, wet soils, which we had this year, sometimes can induce iron deficiency. It makes it difficult for the trees, any plant, to take up iron. So you may see your trees come out iron deficient initially. Wait another month, wait till mid-late April, once the soil temperature is dried out and warmed up some. And a lot of times, if that's the case, the trees will self-correct.
Yeah.
They'll green right up as soon as the soil temperature warms
Problem
up.
is people see that iron deficiency and start dumping iron on it when it's freezing cold and it can't do anything.
Yeah, so,
let's look at that.
Yeah, what,
Well,
don't
after-
get that 59 or something?
I make it easy for people to remember, instead of going out and testing and trying to measure your soil, just wait till after tax day and then going after you wrote your check to the IRS, go do
And
your
cry
therapy in the garden,
tears
yeah.
over the
Grow-
trees.
Go out in the garden and say, oh, good grief, I got no money left to
But
go buy a
just
can of iron, yeah. I got no money left to go spend on a can of iron to green up my trees, so. But that's how we used to always say it. So that was Terry and I's big thing, was after tax day, go
That's
check your
hilarious.
trees. So,
Oh,
yeah,
God bless Terry.
yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way to do it. So, any questions so far on what we're talking about? And we can go into varieties now. I know everybody loves to know all the different varieties. Okay, so he's got his grubby mugs all over my old Stribling's
What year
catalog.
is that? It's, no, this one's 96, but probably printed.
Oh, it's got stuff from
96 is like historic now, I believe. That's like the 1950s when we were in 96.
revised 1996. The original printing
Yeah,
was like in the
for sure.
It's like the 50s and 60s for Stribling. Yeah, this is, because you don't find some of these varieties anymore. So peach, so strawberry. See, they even set it up Sunset Zones when they redid it. But J.H. Hill, nobody knows of those.
Yeah, never seen it, never heard of it.
Oh, we used to sell them here. J.H. Hill,
Hill.
one of the sweetest peaches you will ever grow.
Why do you
But-
think it fell away from the masses?
Not that it fell away from the masses, they're just not known here. And you
Also
also,
zone 4 too, yeah.
well, no, that's USD zone. Sunset Zone's 7 to 11.
Oh,
So it's not here. You need like Wilcox,
yeah.
Bisbee, Benson, not here. That's why. So, but we would sell them just
You can
because
Pull it off, man.
we'd have, well, Vale you could, if you're Tanque Valley, you could.
If you got a real
But we'd
cold
have-
spot in your yard,
No, just Vale, Tanque
you know.
but. So I had a lady in Phoenix in Tempe, right? She's a little bit east of the 101, south of University. Anyhow, she's right near the canal. Goes right by her. This last Saturday, she had frost in her backyard. And what people forget, you don't have to have freezing temperatures to have frost. You could be 36 degrees and you got frost in your backyard. So she learned and discovered after a couple of years that there's one little spot right back here in her backyard is where it just gets cold. The cold air settles right there. So that's Stone Fruit Row. All her cold
Yeah.
chill requirement trees are right there. Tropicals are right up into here.
Yeah.
And so, and then
That's what we
the
did at our house. We have 3/4
others
of
are
an
there in the
acre,
back.
and there is like a subtropical section and there is a freezing cold section where all the cold sinks into our yard. Yeah, and we
Yeah.
took a couple years to figure that out, but, and some money.
Yes, so, but yeah, you do that, learn where they're at. And so when you go to a nursery, ask, double check, say, what's the chilling requirement of this tree?
And you can Google it.
And chill hour just means that however many, it needs 300 hours of
below
chilling
45.
hours. So, and chill hours is anything below 45. The best chill hours are 30 to 40 degrees. So it doesn't even have to hit freezing, but anything below 45,
Double chill.
it'll go double chill. And then sometimes you'll even see here Florida Prince, which does well here, but they have it listed as
Yeah.
Sunset Zone 13, which is Phoenix. Tucson is a 12, so they're not even recommending it for Tucson. Why? Because you get these low chill peaches like Florida Prince and Desert Gold, especially Florida Prince, they can flower up to 3 weeks ahead of a Desert Gold.
And you freeze.
I've had them in full bloom inside the building in the nursery in January with 2 inches of snow outside on the ground.
Yeah,
So they meet their chill requirement, they get the first warm day, they're in full flower.
and then you lose them if it freezes.
And then you lose everything. So, but that being said, so make certain if you live in a colder area, if you come into Tucson or Phoenix and you're in outlying areas that are much colder, higher elevation, you don't want anything like that. Conversely, because we have people, especially here in Southern Arizona and Tucson, who come in from Wilcox, Oracle, Catalina, Bisbee, where they're 3,000 to 5,000 feet in elevation, we have a lot of varieties that are much higher chill for those areas. I can't tell you how many times we get busy on a Saturday. You only have so many sales staff and you get 30 customers at once and some
You're
of
not
them don't
asking a
even want,
question, or you're not saying it.
some of them don't even ask for help. They just go out there, they look, they grab it and they go home with it. And, they've got a tree that won't produce here, or they're getting a tree because they just heard it online that it's good for here and they live in Patagonia, which is,
And we've taken chill hours to a whole nother extreme in some areas of our yard, and I know people like even in Phoenix who make Granny Smith apples, work out in their yard and get fruit, so it's possible to break that as well.
What are the top 5 peach varietals that you can grow here? stay central.
Well, so the top five is the,
Central.
so the top five are the five that you like the taste of the most. Okay, how's that?
You have
So-
to become a friend with a nursery owner?
Look at, to me,
Tried them.
do you like white or yellow peaches?
I like yellow.
Okay, white or sweeter. So my top five, the first three are gonna be all white. So be careful how you say that. Say, what are five good ones that will grow here? There's a big list. So Tucson in general does have 500 chill hours. It's been, if you go back, look at what the U of A's been putting since the sixties and seventies, most all those peaches had 500 chill hours. Phoenix, 200 to 300. So depending upon where you're at, you get the outskirts of Phoenix, 300 to 400. There's still some of them touching on 500 chill hours. So especially you get up Carefree and Cave Creek, those areas, they're 2,000 foot plus in elevation again. Winter time, so winter time, those storms come from up north. So there's a lot of times where the snow level's been 2,500 feet outside of the Phoenix Valley. Gets down to Tucson, it's 3,500 feet because we're just far enough south. So then they can get just as cold or colder up there than we do here, just because they're closer to that cold center of that storm that
Yeah,
that's coming across Arizona, and the main core of it's Phoenix North. So
Somebody was asking, chill hours only between certain months. It's when we,
no, just
It's-
chill,
it's
chill
when you
hours
get that
anytime of anytime of that winter. So sometimes you get, chill hours are gonna start October, November. You get a few cool nights, especially starting around Halloween for most places and Thanksgiving for the rest. And like I said, I've had trees that have met their chill hours by the 1st of January. And
there
so, and
used to
yet
be a
we're
site where you
still-
could check on chill hours.
Yeah,
and
but
they
the-
took it down and
the-
it
I
wasn't
don't-
exact either.
Wasn't that good, so I don't
Yeah.
know what happened to it.
Chillhours.com it was called.
Yeah, and it,
Those that don't know what chill hours means, that are on Monday.
well, we already,
Yeah, we went over that.
we
yeah.
already went over that. So,
45 degrees below.
so I had chill hours this last weekend. It was 36 at my house again Sunday morning.
Yeah, it was chilly.
So we're still getting chill hours. So it's now, once you get a number of nights, generally, if you say stay above 50 for 2 or 3 weeks straight, that can be enough to cancel. Well, they say cancel everything out. I don't know that I'm gonna say cancel it, but to most of those trees, it can be, it's gonna signal them, hey, winter's over with, it's time to start growing.
Yeah, I still have some
So-
peaches that are just coming out now, so.
Yeah, and I mean, this is late March. It's not unusual to still be getting cold this time of the year. I've seen snow on the ground in April twice. And it has snowed in Tucson the first week of May back in the 60s. And snowed in Mount Lemon the first week of June, first or second week of June in the mid-80s.
Yeah, I've been.
So that I can
snowboarding on Mount
remember.
Lemmon on April 10th and 99, 2000 or something. like
So, and it used to stay even longer than that back in the day. So, so yeah, so it's, your chill hours can keep going at any time. But as for really good ones, so early varieties are the Florida Prince and Desert Gold. Those are very popular. So your central town, we won't go, let's say what might actually be available. How about that? So let's look at what might actually be that you're gonna find. See, 49er is a great peach, but that's again for,
It happened very well, and then I had the red tape, and the first year I had it was bad. When you,
yeah, so,
it produced fruit that year. Every year after that, we didn't hit the chill out requirements.
well, because Red Haven needs 800 chill hours. You need to be up above 4,000 feet in elevation. 2020, we had a cold enough winter to hit all the chill hours.
You need to
We
dump ice on the root and it'll
Pretty glad I watched.
pull
Yeah,
all the leaves off of it, put it into dormancy.
go
AC
up
on
to
it.
Mount Lemon, bring a truckload of snow back down,
Yeah.
dump it on top of it and just let it go.
And
Red
on
Haven
top
is,
The chill out, man.
Red Haven is a
It's
good
the
peach,
status
but
of
it's not gonna,
tropicals.
it's gonna produce every 4 or 5 years here.
Where
It's
do
not
you
gonna be a
find that?
regular,
So, my first yard that I was working with, I had moved in and met a woman, and we were living together in that true.
Huh.
So I was just taking care of
Wonder
it.
where
and
she
then
got
it
that.
just-
probably from me.
Oh, cause you're Wilcox.
I
Slanger.
sold those all the time.
Yeah,
That's
he
why I
had
knew
all the
that.
Cold ones. I'd always go there and check and chill hours.
I
Oh,
had,
that's
I
the
had
chill
lots
hour.
of,
Yeah,
so
That's
we still had, so if you're familiar with Santa Barbara's gotten to be a popular peach. Is what I was trying to go to here. Where are we at? Santa Barbara peach, 300 chill hours, self-fruitful. But the original parent I like even more, which was Ventura. So Santa Barbara is what they call a bud sport. So it means that the Ventura was growing. One branch did a genetic mutation and was actually giving fruit that was just different enough, ripening different enough that it could become a whole brand new separate
That's
tree.
so cool.
So, but Santa Barbara is a good one.
I like Saturn peaches.
It's a red, what I like about them, so what I liked about the Ventura is it's a red blush inside near the pit.
Oh, cool.
But again, most of these guys don't see them or know them here. Michael and I used to go out to California and hand pick trees. They would just drive out there. There's 50-acre wholesale nursery or 100 acres, whatever it is, and they'd come out and just, here's a breakfast burrito and an orange juice, and
Go
they'd come
buy.
back early afternoon, bring us a couple bottles of water. I mean, we'd find berries growing out there wild or on the bushes or pomegranates, because it's October, November, a few pomegranates left on the trees, just bite into them with our teeth. That was what sustained us during the day. And we'd find stuff hiding that our sales rep didn't even know they had. I mean, we got a reputation with the guys, so I'm not gonna, literally, Steve is driving us over here, and I look about a quarter mile over there, and I said, hey, Steve, I want some sugar cane. So we don't sell sugar cane. I said, I know you don't, but your workers planted green and red sugar cane over there, and you're gonna dig up some clumps and ship it to me when you send the semi over here. And so,
He was an innovator
and
before that.
and
chain was so very
they
good.
got really excited that somebody knew that was sugarcane outgrowing there. Not only did he know it, he recognized it from a quarter mile away. Well, I didn't get fat from eating salads all day long. So I know what sugarcane looks like. So. Okay, so Bonanza Dwarf Peach is just the best well-known. Garden Gold, like what he was doing, Pixie, those are much better tasting peaches. One of the reasons Bonanza's gotten so popular is it's a much bigger fruit. Well, big fruit doesn't mean sweet.
Yeah.
So,
Basically, the large fruits that you would see on a fruit section.
well, Bonanzas are big. They're just not sweet. So there's some that are big that are sweet. But with the dwarfs, the Bonanza, it grows larger, just much more common, much more well-known, and the fruit is much larger than all the other dwarf varieties. But the Pixie, the Garden Gold, those have much better flavor than the Bonanza for as far as a dwarf tree.
It's just commercially produced.
Yeah, that's
Does is it grown from a rootstock or is that graft?
they're all
They're
grafted.
all grafted.
They're all grafted. It's all out and out grafted in, even though some of those others are genetic dwarfs. So like the Pixie, it's a genetic dwarf. Now I just drew a blank. Double check. Honey Babe's a good one.
Oh, when you
you know-
tasted it, you knew it.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there, but there's how they come up with some of these names. It might be the Flory miniature peach, and that's right on the edge for Tucson, a hard one to find.
How'd they
So,
come up with Babcock?
I have no idea. It was a good old fashioned white Georgia peach.
All right, this
It's
is my last performance.
one of
Can
the-
I ask a question and back up a
Yes.
little bit? So
Yes.
I've had a friend recommend the Bonanza, and I like the idea of a smaller peach tree.
Yep,
From what I'm hearing from you, if I want to go for a taste in a dwarf, maybe Garden Gold would be your
if you wanna grow
suggestion.
for taste, if you wanna go for taste, go with the Garden Gold. Okay.
And you could always graft onto that tree. You gotta start
And-
learning grafting, Paola.
I'm out of my depth with that. I
I
don't
can
know.
teach you. How about that?
And
That would be
Honey
wonderful.
Babe-
Thank you.
Honey Babe and Pixie are gonna be much better. So Garden Gold, Honey Babe, and Pixie miniature peaches are gonna be much better tasting peaches than the Bonanza if you're going with the dwarf. Much, much better. So everybody on Instagram, our monthly fruit growers meeting. This is the first time I'm trying it live on Instagram to see what people think, if they enjoy watching a bunch of nitwits talk about growing fruit trees in Arizona. So tonight's topic is peaches, and normally we've got he's supposed to bring a bottle of whiskey to share that everybody has a shot when I mention my organic fertilizer, but
What kind of
Or-
organic fertilizer is that, Tony?
it's the best shit your plants are ever gonna have.
Tony's-
In fact, I will break my leg to bring your garden the best shit out there.
Tony's-
So
You're supposed to go Sparkle Tooth, Earth's original
Sparkle
organic.
Tooth, Earth's Original Organics, Tony's Magic Mix, yes. The best stuff in the universe, everybody knows, made from God. God provided it
And it
all.
won the #1 fertilizer in Phoenix this last year.
2 years in a row.
2 years.
2 years in a row. So we're holding up. Thank you, everybody, for your support. Yes, I'm back out now. My leg is healing. Now, if I can get past the what I did to the no, to my
Remember?
my
Where-
tendons and nerves. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just seeing this. What's the
Gloria.
average chill hours at Tucson Estates, Gloria?
Out in the west side?
Yeah, you're gonna get still 400 or 500 chill hours out there, Gloria. Sorry, I didn't see this message come in. So. Okay, and so yes, if you want to measure your pH, get a soil testing kit or send it off to be tested. How do you determine warm and cold areas in your yard, Barbara? Sorry, it wasn't showing me notifications for questions. So, how do you determine? You're gonna have to set up little weather monitoring stations to see how cold it gets in the wintertime. You're gonna have to
Find
go through
expensive trees and see if they die there.
yeah, you're gonna have to go through a whole year of
That's
just
how I did it.
doing it, watching for frost. If you think it's gonna be cold in your area. So you thought spiked soil was the #1 fertilizer in Arizona?
Isn't it soil?
Spiked soil was 7 years ago. That hasn't existed in 7 years. And all spiked soil
The soil.
well, no, that was the name of the
Oh.
company that, when I was working with another investor. So that was my fertilizer
Yeah,
under
that makes
another
sense.
name that the guy tried to steal from me.
Yeah, it's
So
magic dust.
it's, that's where that's at. So it has not been spiked soil for 7 years. That
This is when the split
disappeared.
happened.
Yeah, that was it. Spike soil does not exist. And all it ever was before was my fertilizer. Oh, it was a joke.
Well played, Margie.
Well, but you got me. All right, there you go. You got me. You got me. So she got me good. All right. No, it was just a joke. She's laughing at me now. So I deserve
It was
that
a
one.
tender spot.
It was, you still have my business card that says that? Oh, good. Frame it, send me a picture. I still have some of them too, believe it or not. I think I might even have a couple lighters that say spiked soil and a shovel. Yeah, I got pretty I'll tell you sometime when it's not being recorded, why I got pretty defensive. We won't go into that here and now. So anyhow, so other varieties that are gonna grow good here. I'm using this list of ones so white peaches are still the sweetest. So
Strawberry.
strawberry, or you'll see it strawberry or strawberry free.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be one or the others. Babcock white, Babcock ripens August, exceptional fruit. Now, here is one thing before I forget, people like the flat donut peach. Okay, that is, the original one is a white peach. The original one is Stark Saturn. 2 words. I can't tell you how many people used to come in the nursery saying, I want a Stark peach. And my guys didn't know better and they would walk them out, no, and sell them a Stark peach. Stark peach is an exceptionally flavorful, old school yellow freestone peach that ripens July, August. So there is Stark and there is Stark Saturn. Now, a lot of people just call it donut peach or white donut peach. Well, there are several donut peaches now. Galaxy is about 1/3 larger than the Stark Saturn in weight. The Stark Saturn, you need it to fully ripen on the tree to really have good flavor. The Galaxy can be harvested earlier, a week, 10 days before it's fully ripe, have good flavor, even be somewhat juicy. That's why you don't hardly see them in the stores, because they don't ship and store well. So those are gonna be hard ones to come by on those donut peaches in the store. Now they've got a yellow one, I think it's Sazi Swirl
Yeah.
is the name of it. I haven't tried it, so I can't give you an honest opinion for flavor. But and know that if you wish to do canning for peaches, most of those are gonna be cling peaches. The best canning peaches are cling peaches, not the freestones, and most of those require a much higher chill hour. Now, there is one, and I'm not gonna try and pronounce it.
The Kawahe.
Oh, Kawahe, I would call it Kawea, Kaweah. Low trill triers, less than 500 hours. It is good fresh eating, baking, canning, jams, and jellies. So it is a good all-around peach.
Another Zager.
It's another Zager. Now, Zager, everybody knows Zager fruits. They've got the pluots, the plumcots, the this and the that, and all those that they've been breeding for a long time. And when you send those out and for people to buy, those are their trees that actually didn't do as well as the others. The good ones they hold back and
Yeah.
keep for the orchardists.
Yeah.
The other varieties that you don't see are the ones that the orchard guys get. That strawberry?
Yeah.
So that's a good, the white peaches are where you really gotta, and it's also letting them get fully ripe before you harvest. Don't pick them early. If you
You have
pick
to
them
fight the
early,
birds, but
yeah, you gotta fight the bird. That's what God made a pellet gun for.
yeah,
Um,
there's also mirrors that rotate. You can throw snakes in your tree, or you can.
so, but if you put the
Bags in
snakes and stuff in there, you've got to keep moving them
change
around.
Or the
If
birds are
the-
like, "Ah, that's fake.
And they will sit on the snake while they
Yeah.
eat your peach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can do
Exactly.
tool, which is the wetting stuff, and you can net your whole tree with it. You can do the organza bags, put them over it. We put those over our grapes one year to
This
protect the
nuclear
fruit.
organza bags are the really strong ones, because I've seen them just peck through the other stuff they sell on Amazon.
So the fig beetles, the green June bugs, they ate right through the organza bags to get to our grapes. And there was like 30 of them in each. So we got 3 dozen bunches of grapes on the vine. Each one is bagged in an organza bag, and each one has 30 or 40 fig beetles that ate through, got it one hole, all climbed in there, ate all the grapes and got stuck and died. So we had 30
That's a great smell.
30
too.
organza bags just loaded with dead June bugs, and each and every one hanging on our back fence there. They died happy.
Or
They
you'll
got
find
their
a
last
bird that'll
meal.
Get inside the tool and will be fatter than it can even fly. Stuck
They
in
can
a
find the
tree.
tiniest hole to get in and can't figure out how to get back out. They just can't. I've opened it up, taken one section off, and they'll fly to the edge of it and not go. Even though I made a 5-foot hole for them, they can't find their way back out from it. So gold dust peach, as you had said, is a good one, but that's borderline. You need to be like about 3,000 feet elevation for that one, or down in the riverbed. So, no, just even Vale would do it around here, but I got people online here who are watching up from Phoenix, so that's why I'm saying elevation. They don't, no. Bonita peach, it's one you don't see very often. Bonita is a wonderful, wonderful peach. Yellow freestone with red blush, sweet subacid, late July. So again, you can mix these up and have staggered harvest seasons. And so as long as you keep them well watered, your fruit's gonna
I
hold
have
on
a
the
tree
tree.
with 6 varieties on it and have a staggered harvest. It's awesome.
So is it like, one variety every month?
Yeah,
Somewhere around there, yeah, up to
So-
the Babcock at the end. I think I have one other one that if it's cold enough, it'll even go further than August.
What was the professor up in, I think it was Phoenix, here, had I think it was Stanford,
The-
she had
The cocktail tree or whatever.
12 varieties. He had
Yeah.
one for every
Yeah.
single month.
You just keep grafting onto your trees, just collect the varieties, graft onto
Yeah.
them and see what happens with it. I mean, I have an apple with like 15 or 16 now, and it fruits differently and flowers differently. I hate to go off topic, but
No, it's all right.
Fuji doesn't flower or even leaf out until way later. I'm like, is it dead this year? And I forget. you know.
It's, so Fuji and Granny Smith do well here. They both flower so late that half the time they struggle to set fruit because it's so hot.
Yeah.
So you gotta watch out for those then.
So what is, freestone, the meaning of freestone, freestone,
So,
and are there other terms for other?
no, so freestone, this is any of them, peach, plum, what have you,
You cut it in half and the peach,
comes away
The
from the
pit falls
pit, from the
away.
seed. Cling means it doesn't.
You have.
The seed,
Yeah.
no, the seed sticks to the flesh. You cannot separate the flesh from the seed. So it stays on there.
yeah, go buy a few peaches from the store and you'll see the difference.
okay.
They usually don't have very many freestones either, though, sometimes, but.
Well, because a lot of the main peach growing
They-
regions are much colder.
Yeah, so they.
And
get
people are used to the older ones,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if they want to do canning, or they've just picked them early enough that they haven't ripened
They
enough to where they
still-
will separate, so they still stick. So I mean, if that peach has a smell, has an aroma, it's like cantaloupe. If you can smell it, it's right.
Yeah,
If you can't smell it, it's not right.
fight the birds.
So
Fight the birds. Yeah.
fight the birds. Yes, fight the birds. Go and marry a good woman, and just put her out there with a slingshot or a pile of pebbles and just let her sit there and
It just takes.
Throw
a
rocks
couple
at
of
the
them to
tree.
tell the friends, don't.
Hey,
go to
hey,
that
look.
tree.
No, that's
My-
for our children.
If I recall correctly, it was National Geographic one that my father had from back in the 1970s. So we're going off topic here a little bit, but they were in China. So silkworms. Silkworms, I mean, that's especially 60s and 70s still, you're talking major money. They only eat the leaves of mulberry trees. And they had guards. Their sole job, they had rifles that probably may have World War I or predated World War I. And their job was to stand there and walk around underneath these mulberry trees
Because the
And
sun
shoot the-
worked so much.
and shoot the birds that came in to try and eat the
To eat the
silkworms. So that was their job. We're gonna just sit there and have my old black musket and
That's crazy.
shoot the
But-
birds that are
but
coming
it-
in to eat the silkworms. So that's what you do. So, yeah, so we're talking growing peach trees here in Arizona. So we're having fun with it. Any questions on varieties then? I know there's so many of them. Oh, that's plums.
So basically, when you're looking for the varieties, you want to find out what your chill factor is in your yard.
What your chill factor
And
is.
and pick your variety depending upon that chill.
Based on
factor.
that.
It's
Based on that
really
chill factor.
Based on when you want them to produce and when they're not.
Well, no, that has, when they ripen has nothing to do with chill hours. There's no relation. So, but if you want something to ripen in August, find a variety that's gonna ripen in August.
And if you want something to ripe early, like a desert gold, like he was saying, or something like that.
Yeah, so
the
Florida
fruit-
Prince sometimes may ripen in May.
Yeah.
So so Florida Prince is about 2-3 weeks ahead of a desert
Oh,
gold.
let's talk about thinning fruit.
Oh, it's the thinning fruit. So if you want big fruit on your tree, you get to go in and remove 80% of it and throw it away.
It's a hard one to do.
It's a hard one to do. So
Especially if
you
grow-
need fruit at least 6 inches. Or
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you do it when it's small.
or just
If you wait
try.
till it's big, your fruit's never gonna regrow afterwards. So the main reasons for thinning your fruit is to reduce the weight on the limbs because they can break.
I've seen it.
I've experienced it, and to get larger fruit. So if you want really big fruit, you don't have one fruit, but maybe every 18 inches. 18 inches is gonna,
Typical practice, if it's a strong tree, would be every 6 inches or so, and
Yeah.
depending on what size you want it to be.
Hard pruning.
what's that?
Each- the fact that hard pruning each trees every year.
Well, so,
the fact that we get more flowers, more buds.
no. So peach trees, peach trees flowers come on last year's
Yeah,
growth.
You'd have to wait.
So
a
if
year.
if you hard prune it this winter, you cut off all your flower buds. You don't get more flower buds.
Yeah.
You do not. So if you want a lot of flower buds, you prune your tree after it flowers, then all the growth that you get the rest of this year is what's gonna produce flower buds. So give it a hard prune after it blooms. Give it a fertilizer at that point in time that promotes flowering, because that's going to help it develop the flower buds. And repeat with that fertilizer again at monsoon season, because whether it rains or not, the higher humidity, they're still gonna be pushing out growth. They're gonna be making more branches. It's gonna be making more fruit. So,
Now, hard pruning in July is probably not the wisest thing to do either, though. I mean, I've seen
It's a
like,
bad time.
I've seen desert golds completely have dieback from it with clean tools and everything and proper pruning.
It's too hot.
And-
That's the amount.
well,
Yeah,
so it,
I'm very like, I hardly touch my peach trees.
Any tree.
it's difficult. There are people who do it. The biggest thing is you don't want to open up the inside too much, and you need to keep up with the watering.
Yeah.
So there was custom, so watering, when you water, if you have drip irrigation. Here's my tree. I planted my tree. I have 1, 2, 3 2-gallon an hour drip emitters. And I'm gonna run it for no less than 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, 3 or 4 times a week the first summer. Cause I'm not just watering this tree, I'm trying to wet out a large area, encourage root growth to go out and to encourage the tree to grow. If I just do it for an hour, all I'm doing is giving it enough water to survive and
Yeah,
stay exactly the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't grow. You want it to grow up bigger. You don't give a toddler just what it needs to survive
Exist.
on. You want it to,
Yeah.
you want it to grow big, they gotta start eating. So same thing with that tree. Then next year I go out here, I'll go out 3 feet, and then every 3 feet in circumference, I'm adding another drip emitter. Now maybe I'm running it 5 hours every 4 days.
Or using soaker hoses or.
Or
spray-
using soaker hoses that
Sprinkle
run
drip
for
tape.
hours on end. He was afraid I was gonna take a drink
No,
of
no,
this,
no. I just moved it from the picture.
but, now if you water with a hose, put the hose there and walk off and leave it slowly for several hours. So if you got bubblers, let it run as slow as possible, let it run for hours on end. If you wish to do organic fertilizer, cats help, yes, cats help with the birds,
We
yes.
call Gloria.
So if you want to do, organic fertilizers, doesn't matter whether you use mine or anything else, all organic fertilizers are to be used monthly, spring to fall here. So starting March or April till September, October, you apply the organic fertilizer once a month, because the high heat here, the amount of watering we do, just breaks it down immediately.
And then late October, we do a heavy bloom.
Well, no, that's with citrus, so,
I still do it with everything and I
well, you can still do
crazy
it.
amounts of
Late October, you do what?
the bloom formulas so that it's readily available
So they-
when they wake up.
For the last fertilizing that you do in October.
It's just bloom.
It's just the bloom.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you're just doing the flower, because they take it up for storage, so it's there when they need it the following spring.
Yeah.
So putting it after they bloom in the spring and again at monsoon helps them formulate those buds. Putting it again in October gives them the final push they need when they go out.
Yeah,
So I had a guy who did that in Phoenix with his pomegranates. I found over a dozen where they were coming 5 to 7 flower buds together. And he had one that had 12.
Mutation.
No, not no, it was no mutation. They were just all, he got it so good with the fertilizer, did it as teas several times with the bloom, nice and hard and heavy. And it just pushed, I mean, got pictures of it where it's in a cluster like this, it was 7 individual fruit right there on the end. And then the
Somebody
squirrels
took
came in
ours
and got it.
Those are-
What's that?
Oh, it's. Tony.
The magic flower. It's Tony used the magic flower. It's so to make it,
Everybody
make
take a
it bloom.
shot out there.
So, so yeah, so that's gonna be watering and fertilizing. Now, as far as disease, so root rots are a big issue here in the summertime.
Or peaches.
The diseases naturally exist in our soil from about Death Valley all the way to Texas. That's why they call Texas root
Texas
rot.
Cotton rot.
Now it's just called cotton rot because it's killing all the cotton farms in Texas, but so Texas cotton root rot, take your pick. So there's Phytophthora, Fusarium, and Verticillium are the big 3 here. They are very difficult to control. Bacillus amelia liquefaciens, but you've got to order it where it's super high count. So I mean, it's got to be a lot in there for it to work to help control soil fungi. And even then you may not get it all the way under control.
Also, so regarding that facility, is there a time frame in which from when you receive it to when you apply it? Like, is there a shelf life?
It will say on the package if there's a shelf life. So depending upon how it's formulated, yes, it,
Been a cool place. or-
it
yeah,
will say. So some of those, yeah, you gotta store them in the fridge.
Yeah.
You just open it up, take the whatever leftovers are in there, take them out, put your bag of fertilizer in there, have your box of beneficial nematodes next to it. You're all set and ready to go. So,
So
As far-
keep your mulch back from the trunk 6 inches.
yeah, keep the mulch back from the trunk 6 inches. Have the root flare exposed, water long, slow and deep, turn it on, go dinner, dancing, movies, come home, watch the news, read the paper,
Cry about your water. bill.
cry about your water bill. And then have a cup,
Growing.
have a couple of nightcaps and then go turn the water off. Anything less is lack of water. It
Set
was
a timer. You will not remember.
Custom Earth Dirt Works.
Yeah.
Last week, he put a picture online from an orange tree that he had cut down. Classic coated. Classic coat. So coated is compartmentalization of disease in trees. So it's where trees don't heal if they're wounded. They just grow around it. So here it is. It's got the disease. You look at the trunk outside, it looks fine. Here's nice white flesh growth. And inside there's this irregular
brown.
shape, brown dead growth inside. And it will have 4 different colored rings where the tree is growing around it, trying to control the depth. Well, it was a citrus tree. It looked like an orange tree, but it was definitely citrus. So one of the pictures, he showed this one limb, may have been the part of the original main side trunk that started it all. And you look at it and I love it. I want to blow it up and stick it in the evening news for everybody to see what happens when you don't water every summer. Stop being afraid to water. It had 3 different coated
Where?
sections.
Look at this.
So let me see. Oh, yeah. So
That's wild.
yeah, so this is what we're talking about right there. So that you can see it. This was the coated. You'll get to see it tomorrow. I'm gonna show it to everybody.
I'll send it to you.
So this is it. But
As you go on, should be at the very beginning of everything.
no, it's this one right here.
Show it to the camera.
Yes.
Show it to the camera.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
The wrong
Oh,
camera.
camera,
this
there we
one,
go.
sorry.
Sorry. So there it is right there.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I thought I had it up there.
You got
So,
2 cameras.
yeah, so this one here, if you can see it, there
Then
is
I can extend
3,
it sideways. Oh, it doesn't make it any better. There you go.
all right, so if you look at it right here, you see the darkest, blackest ring, and I'll show it up to both cameras. The darkest, blackest rings is always level 4 where it's holding things out, where that's the last line of defense on it. On this one here, you can see 1, 2, 3 different black
Uh-huh.
lines. So
Yes.
that is because every year for the last 3 years, it wasn't getting watered enough. And so the first year it got sunburned, the tree contained it with the black there. The next year it didn't get watered enough, it got sunburned, it started a whole new bit of dead growth on the outside of it. And then this last one right here, that's still the darkest brown in color. You can
Yeah.
see this is the lighter brown up here. This was all dead. This died 2 years ago and this all died last year. So this
Wow.
one is showing it that each year it was just getting worse and worse and worse because they weren't watering the tree. But the tree was doing its proper job and always containing it, compartmentalizing it. So, yeah, it's just neat. There's plenty of stuff to nerd out on, weird out on in the garden. And tomorrow, Mary and I have our breakfast meeting for our Southern Arizona Arborist group, and I'm gonna show that in there, and I'm gonna quiz everybody, and anybody who can't answer it properly buys me breakfast. So, well, no, you gotta buy me coffee because you gotta pay for my coffee. Well, you were here tonight, so I can't fully quiz you, but so that's, we'll cut you halfway through and you can buy me coffee. So that's, Any questions then so far? I know we've gone all over the place with topics, talking about everything.
And
Any,
you talk about water tree, and you talk about watering it with drip irrigation versus watering it by a soaker hose. When I tell people to water, I always tell them to turn it like 1/8 of a turn, just so it soaks. just
Well,
barely,
but-
And then let it get down to about 18 inches. To me, watering with drip irrigation sometimes only gets down 6 inches. So it's
that's
sort of-
why it's not a matter of doing it 1/8 of a turn. If you've got clay soil, 2 gallon an hour drip emitters, it's got to run for 3 or 4 hours period to get it down in there. And 1/8 of a turn, I will never tell anybody 1/8 of a turn, because 1/8 of a turn in my front yard barely trickles out, and 1/8 of a turn in my backyard hose bib flows. So everybody's hose bib is different. So
but I
you
don't
just put it a good, you just,
want it fast.
yes, so it's just a good slow trickle.
That way you keep your roots.
No, you want it down 2 to 3 feet
Oh, on this, on,
Yeah.
on the fruit trees.
on everything.
Yeah. We just
18
walk
inches
around
will
with
not-
a
18
poke-
inches will not
poke
cut
in
it
the
for-
ground, and if it doesn't go far enough, water more.
18 inches is not gonna cut it for a tree. No, not gonna. Okay, well, but
That's
2 to
why we
3 feet.
experiment on our stuff.
We'll experiment.
So,
But I always tell people,
You
kind of keep in mind,
Maybe
that
you're hitting caliche down there and your
Yeah.
hole wasn't big enough.
there's humidity
Yep.
outside in the air, and it's like, it's
so,
90%, and stick your tongue out, and you feel hydrated. If you don't.
so I did,
water deeper.
did we cover everything? Oh, I guess insects. So as far as insects go, other than the green fig beetles and birds, occasionally you get aphids, which aren't that big of a deal. Beyond that, you're gonna have borers. You will get borers on a lot of your fruit trees. So you can spray over the winter time with the dormant oil, a horticultural oil. Nurseries will know what you need, what they've got selling there. I don't recommend brand names. So you can go in, check your local nursery, and they will have what you need. Spray it over the winter time while the trees are dormant. And that'll help get them under
That's
control.
For
And
nectarines too, right? the
for
grapes.
anything,
Yeah.
for all your trees. And the best defense against insects is keeping your trees happy and healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you get a lot of insects on your tree,
There's a
the
problem.
insects attack weak, stressed trees.
Or too much nitrogen.
So that
or
means-
Too much of something.
There you go.
That's with any tree. So this,
Got the grape beetle for pine trees.
Yeah.
because-
hello there. So, we got everything going on here. So it's,
No.
so you can, make certain you keep, and this year there is some peach leaf curl going on out there. So your peach trees look funny and deformed, and they've got these pink warty bumps on them. That's from all the rain that we had this year. Go through, remove those leaves later on as it warms up, bag them and trash them, throw them away. That fungus is not an issue in Arizona because it cannot survive the heat. Once we get hot and dry, the fungus dies, period. So it's nothing to worry about. So,
I've seen seeds on a peach tree. I couldn't tell whether it was bacterial or fungal, but I think it was in the bark, and what was happening is the entire limb of the tree was dying. I would clean the pruners and everything, cut the limb off.
When was it pruned?
This was right in the spring.
okay, so if you get one branch that's continuously dying back,
And I cut off the dead too.
well, so here's the thing. A lot of times if you see it dead to here, it's already dead to here.
Hey,
So
we've
if
seen
it's-
that rot in the inside, like that dark coloration or anything.
So you've got root rot probably on it. You have some type of soil fungal disease. When you've got one branch dying here and there on any plant, it's either insects or disease, one or the other. If it's a water issue, the death is uniform. So if it's not enough water, they die uniform. On that 0.00001% where the plant's getting overwatered, it dies uniform. There is watering issue, it's the whole thing goes at once. Anything else, a branch here and there is insects or disease. And if it was insects, they would have died to a certain point. You would have already cut them out. You'd see sap coming out. If it was, and especially if you saw the black center going down in it, you've got some type of soil fungal disease. At that point, you got to send root samples off to either Mott's or IAS Labs up in Phoenix. It's Mott's or IAS, both of those.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So there's two labs up in Phoenix. So, and
Have their blossoms later, so they avoid potential frost or.
well, but you can't have them come out too late. Let me answer her question first online. So, Margie, so what month do we prune and what months do we fertilize organically? So organic fertilizers for any plant and any organic fertilizer is monthly, spring to fall, March through September, October. You put your organic fertilizer down every month except for winter time. Pruning, you can prune over the winter time. If you prune over the winter, realize you can be removing last year's flower buds. Otherwise, I like to prune in the spring after it's flowered. I can see and know what I'm leaving for fruit, so I'm kind
Yeah,
of
that's
thinning at the same time. And then allowing it to grow back out and give me a good flush of growth that's gonna have flower buds for next year. As far as when they go, just look and know that most very low chill varieties, and you can look it up and see when they will generally bloom. Some of them will have charts to show when they flower and know if they ripen earlier. So where they say they ripen May or late May, early June, those are early bloomers. Ones that ripen later tend to flower later.
So you flower, you prune.
No, her question is, how do I avoid? Well, let me make certain she understands my response and then we'll go back to you. So does that make sense? Okay, so pruning, you can prune anytime over the winter. But if you prune over the winter, you're removing last year's flower buds. You're removing this year's flower buds. So you're not going to get as much fruit, which is why I prefer to prune after it's flowered. I know what I'm leaving for flowers. I'm thinning at the same time. I'm removing it all. I've got a good flush of new growth out. There was somebody sometime last year lamenting that their plum tree is nice and healthy. They never get fruit on it. And her husband prunes it back every year. And you looked at the picture and you could see because it would probably grow out 5 feet every year and he'd prune it back 5 feet every year. So you're removing all the flower buds. And you keep doing that year after year, the tree's only going to regrow with vegetative growth because it's trying to recover because it knows it gets whacked back every year and it's not going to produce flower buds. So it wants to survive. So, that's where things are at. So I hope it makes sense.
I have a question back to companion plants. You said strawberries were good companion plant features. Why
Yeah.
is
They just grow well together. That's, no, but so with companion planting, there technically is not a lot of science behind it. There's not, there's no big university studies showing what grows well with what.
People just notice that.
There's,
This
it's,
works great. Yeah.
there's a few studies that have come out now and that they're trying to say yes, trying to say no. A lot of times they will know with certain plants that would have an allelopathic effect, meaning that they're detrimental to other plants around them. So they would see it. So technically sunflowers don't like to be around a lot of other plants. But you will see some of them that do that. Now, some of the sunflowers that are still seem to be okay around certain other plants are the newer hybrids that were bred for seeds for eating, but a lot of our natives aren't necessarily like that. Fennel doesn't like to play nice with anything else around it. Put lovage in the garden. Lovage helps improve the flavor of almost everything that it's planted nearby. So it's
Love it.
lovage. It's a
Great
good
brand
herb.
too.
It's a great herb. It looks like a wannabe celery. Year-round perennial, and it actually is good in tomato drinks, is what I've had several people tell me. So, but it's a very good perennial herb in the garden. Yeah,
Yeah.
lightly, very
It
lightly.
looks kind of like it too.
But it does look slightly like celery, has that wannabe celery look to it. So companion planting is just trial and error, seeing what grows well to next to each other. And sometimes you got to do it multiple years in a row. It's not just a one-time deal, but there's a lot of information online. A lot of people have done it. And sometimes it's just what what's worked well for them.
And peaches provide a habitat with their shade and
Yeah.
everything, where strawberries are like, oh, thank God I have the
Yeah,
shade and Tucson, you know? Yeah.
Yes.
I try to utilize the water from our trees for multiple vegetables always, you know, you may have to contain them from rodents and whatnot, but the one water source and having a few vegetables in there works well for us, so
That
that's what we
doesn't
do.
hamper like your production with like any vegetable crops because.
No, our soil's so fertile that we don't have any issues with that, and we're creating the pollination gardens by having flowers and whatnot, so it just works. We just plant our gardens underneath our trees.
It's a full project.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That, and I plant the tall trees for birds of prey, the shade and everything, and like the Aleppo pine dieback that she knew so much about. We've lost 35,000 Aleppo pines.
30,000.
People didn't want to water pine trees, but if you put an orchard underneath that pine tree, they're gonna want to water it, and they're gonna get those fruit trees that next year. Once the soil is acclimated well enough, you put your vegetables there. So now with one water source, you're able to keep the pine trees, the birds of prey, and keep the vegetables, and you have a harvest of fruit trees.
So-
That's the way to do it.
So,
We're in a water shortage. We have to figure out different ways of doing that.
so a lot of the pines died because when they were planted 30, 40, 50,
Yeah.
60 years ago, they all had lawns
Grass.
underneath them.
And winter.
And then and winter
They
lawns
were
that
given nitrogen during the winter, just
with
like
the
all
manure
of the
for
lawns
overseeding
do.
with the winter
And
riot,
that's the
so
way they grow in the Mediterranean is with the nitrogen
from the
soaked
thunderstorm.
thunderstorms.
And a lot of people don't stop and think about the fact that an acacia is, you know, from the southern hemisphere or the pine or this or that, you know, and it's here, so we don't need to water it in the winter. So what's happening in all the parks right now is all the eucalyptus, all the pines, all of the smaller trees underneath, they have completely stopped all winter watering. And every one of them are starting to.
Yeah, and it's terrible. If we don't get those long soaking rains that count, that was one thing Terry Meeple always said, was like, these winter rains, when they soak for days, this is what counts in our desert. And saguaro limbs have been proven to grow during those long soaks as well. So if we don't get that, you have to supplement.
So
it.
everybody's thinking we had a great wildflower season this year.
Yeah.
We did not. Even with all the rain we've had here lately. No, it's because if you want a good wildflower season, you need the rains to start in September, October.
Yeah.
If you have no fall rains, you have no wildflower season. What makes it up will do good when we got the rains now, they will be happy. But you have no good wildflower season. It's just, look at what's along the side of the road as you're driving up the highway. And that's
It's
pretty
already
much
dying
it.
back too.
Yeah.
It's done.
And do know we have another storm coming next week. That's
Not another one.
another storm coming,
Yeah.
another storm coming.
This puts me out of a job.
So
Well, like you were talking about. you
it's
know,
not,
Planting things underneath, you know, that, you know.
so we're talking
you know,
growing peaches in the desert here for everybody's joining online.
I usually plant underneath my trees, I usually.
So, and I think
You gotta
we're,
be careful what you plant. I mean,
Yeah.
I
mean,
think
don't want
we're-
something That's sucking
trimmers
to drive.
gotta come in front of
Yeah,
you.
yeah, and
Be careful.
don't let those tree trimmers near your trees.
yeah, I think we're getting about ready to wrap up.
Let's
So
wrap it up.
I'm gonna throw it out here if anybody's got ideas. So we do this once a month, and what topic would anybody like to see? You can think about it. You can message me. You can say it now. You
That's
can,
coming into fruition soon.
well, okay, so next month is April. Nothing's ripening yet with fruit, but we could,
Loquats
Loquats.
coming soon. Mulberries are getting there. It's gonna be a.
well,
no
but they're
time.
gonna be, loquat and mulberry are gonna be close
Same
together.
time, yeah.
So we'll do loquats next month. So next month, we're gonna talk loquats, and maybe you'll hear the half naked story of Tony. So
Well,
We got stuck
well,
on the
let's say
fence.
before we-
I wasn't stuck on the fence. I can't say it yet. I want everybody to tune in. It's like the teaser for next week's episode of Happy Days. Come on back to see what the Fonz does next week.
Hey, Tony, before
Or am I
we-
dating myself saying that?
You're so bad.
We're here to have fun. We're here to have fun and laugh with
If
it.
everybody knew how good a loquat was, they also.
They
could get
would
half
do the
naked to
same
get there.
thing.
Still kind of get-
Are you serious? Oh, you're coming over, dude.
I need another tree. That's what I need. I will bring you where I'm at.
Right, yes, deal.
I'll bring mine. Gotta be careful where you get your fertilizer, I mean, your, not your fertilizer, your, mulch from. I had a guy down in Benson that lost 300 acres because he kept letting everybody bring in all their free, trees that they were chipping up and stuff like that. And there was disease that was brought in and it just killed off his entire orchard, so.
Most of us who are doing this are
Ask
just
what-
have our
ask
own little
what-
yard, and if we lose a tree, we lose a tree,
Yeah,
so
just
I'd rather get free mulch than.
Ask
Hey,
questions,
hey,
ask questions, that's all. What type of tree was this
So-
that we're taking down,
Yeah.
Did he get soil samples, and what was it
No.
exactly that caused it?
I don't know, I never asked that part, I just kind of felt that.
Damn
All right,
mulch.
everybody. Thank you. We're gonna set off. We're gonna have fun. Thank you for joining in. Have a blessed day, everyone.
Come to the next one, Gloria.
Yay!
And Paula, come on.
Come on down.
We just cleaned out tanks. I know they're. Sorry.
Wait, how much did you
Traded our
put?
minivan.
I will.
All right, she's coming in.
10 yards, baby.
Awesome, oh, cool. How much is it for 10 yards in when you pick